Hey guys, welcome to the Investor's Guide of Memphis Real Estate. I am your host, Dean Harris, and as always, I'm with Douglas Skipworth. How you, buddy?
Hey man, doing great.
We're bringing you this podcast to give you the boots on the ground knowledge to be a successful real estate investor here in Memphis, Tennessee. Please like and subscribe to the Investor's Guide of Memphis Real Estate on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, wherever you want to catch the podcast. We'd love your support there. Show sponsors are listed on your screen, guys. We would not be able to do this show without them, run my business without them. Triumph Construction, Local Title, Corland Financial, CrestCore Property Management, and then Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer. Will Griffin over there is our closing attorney. I help buyers and sellers every day. Dean at CrestCore.com. If you have any questions about buying or selling your investment property or any other property here in the city, shoot me an email, Dean at CrestCore.com. How are you?
Hey man, awesome.
What a week it's been with the zip code breakdown drop. I've gotten a ton of response.
Yeah. Most anticipated show of the year.
If
always
whatever level that someone anticipates this podcast, it is at the highest level of what they of what they anticipate, right?
Yeah.
If the level of anticipation maxes out at here on this podcast, the zip code is right up here.
That is very true. I love the comments. People anticipating it.
Yeah, I've gotten emails for the last. We do it every August.
Yes,
beginning, end. We fit it in August every year. This is our. If I looked and remember, this is the sixth or seventh one of these that we've done. So what I thought we would do today is talk about what we learned from the zip code breakdown.
Awesome.
Some things that I learned, just because there's always a moment, just a little behind the curtain moment. As soon as we get done with the podcast recording, a lot of times you and I'll sit here and talk, or we'll, the next day or 2 days, it'll be a little bit of a reflection on what we talked about and did we get our message across, and conversations like that. After we record the zip code breakdown every year, it's typically amplified, times 10 when we get out of this thing, right? Over the last few years, we've had a great producer. Alec has been awesome, and he has shown us different ways to present the information. It looks way better than what we used to sit on here and just read off to you.
The pictures of the houses this year were
killer. We added the pictures, which is awesome. That was Alec's suggestion, and we've always kind of read the data and given it to you, but the illustration of it looks a lot better.
Amazing.
So we got a ton of compliments and a ton of reactions. So thank you to everybody that listened and commented. So what we've learned from that, what I would, as an agent, as an investor,
like takeaway kind of stuff,
from this, from a 30,000 foot view, is what's good has stayed good. Yeah. What is not been as historically good to invest in has stayed not so historically great, right? I've seen amazing consistency here. My first word when we got finished was consistency.
Yeah. When
I started talking to you in 2002 or 3, whenever we started, getting into this and communicating. Yeah. It was 38128, 38118, Colonial Acre, like all of these locations that Berkeley, that you talked about, Darren. That's exactly right. Are all the areas now
that's good.
That we showed you had improving numbers, green,
I'm
so simple, but I love the green and the red. But showing all that green numbers of improvements, even if it's just small.
Right.
Could you imagine improving our market when the interest rate has been at 9? It touched 9, by the way.
Yes.
During this time frame.
Oh, yeah.
And we still saw improvements in our market. So when you ask me why I invest in Memphis and why some of the things that reasons why I keep telling you guys and myself, I'm continuing to buy houses every year. It's those reasons. We're seeing improvement in down times. And when things are great, interest rates are low, we're really seeing some gaps made in our valuations. Give me some of your thoughts. What are some of your takeaways from last week?
I love those. Guys, to piggybacking on that, I think right now the inventory is low, or a little bit slightly lower, so that's good. So, I think we've seen home prices stay stable.
Yeah.
What you said, thought about it, I know we refer to this a lot, the guy who said, hey, where's Memphis going to be in 10 years? So we rewind this back to where Memphis was 10 years ago, before you were even doing these podcasts. You've seen change in those zip codes over those 7 years, the stability and consistency, the growth in those areas, like you said. So where's it going to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
And what we're doing what we're doing today has the ramifications for 10 years from now.
He was buying homes quickly at 200 and 250 that would rent for 18 to 2,300. And I kept asking him why, below 1%. He's like, imagine a young kid, 15 years younger than me, like late 20s, made a bunch of money in the stock market on Wall Street. But he goes, what's Memphis going to look like in 10 years? He's like, I'm 26 or 27. I was like, oh, yeah, that's another. You'd probably be right about 1% or better. He goes, what about in 20? I'm like, man, the value of that home might have doubled.
Right.
And he goes, and my rent could have too. He goes, I'm planning on the future. And he kept going. So
but if we rewound back to the zip codes back 7 years ago, I mean, I think you would have seen all those neighborhoods doubled.
100%.
All those neighborhoods that you just mentioned, where investors were coming in kind of like, 1%, maybe, is this the right time? You know, pre-crash, 15 years ago, pre-recession, is this the time to get in? Recession, COVID, high interest rates, it just keeps trucking along. And all this time, tenants pay rent, by the way.
Yes.
All those 15 years.
We wouldn't be able to keep buying if our tenants weren't paying the rent.
Right.
Right. Well, I'm not communicating with you now with a bunch of vacant houses. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sitting here with a load of vacants and I can't get them occupied. I do a good job. We treat them right, you know, but this is not what that is. And it's remained consistent.
Right.
So I've stayed, my word is stay consistent. Slight improvement in some areas. You know, some of the areas that are a little bit less desirable have kind of improved. Like, you know, I'll mention it. 38106 has seen some pockets of improvement. Yeah. I get nervous still recommending that because if you're coming to me for advice, I'd like to give you just the most sound and solid. So still seeing some of that. Go ahead.
And I'd say to that, because I think there's even been a comment about that. I've seen some improvement in that. And I guess I would say, have you ever been snow skiing?
No. I've been there and watched but I went through no knee tear ups my whole life.
There you go. Yeah, so when you go snow skiing, there's the green runs.
Yes, I do know.
Those are for beginners.
Yeah.
And then there's the blue runs.
Yeah.
And those are for the intermediates. And then there's the black diamonds.
Yeah.
And those are for advanced.
Yeah.
Then
the
double black diamond, expert only.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say those 3 zip codes are.
Yeah.
Those are expert only. So are people going to do well in those? Sure. Are most people? No. So if you're local, if you have some type of expertise that makes you successful in those areas, then man, go for it. We're just saying, this show is not for experts only. This is for everybody. So we're telling beginners, advanced, intermediates.
I love that.
That's what we're saying.
I love it.
So just to clarify.
Because I'm thinking of an investor right now that has 30-something houses in 38114 and he's making it happen.
And we said, you've listed properties there. You've helped people buy.
Of course.
If somebody came to you and said, hey, Dean, I want to buy in one of these zip codes that you don't necessarily recommend an investor get in, but I can do it, you would represent them
all day long.
And Cortland is going to loan on those, and CrestCore Property Management is going to manage for those investors.
Yes.
So just want to clarify that. Just as
great analogy, because that is true. Those 3 zip codes are just the double blacks of snow skiing. You just need to know exactly what you're doing and be prepared for 100% of everything that you're going to, endure over there. Great analogy.
So to your point, some of those areas have seen everything in Memphis. The rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right.
Memphis has improved. Shelby County has improved. The whole MSA has improved.
And you said it a minute ago. You talked about COVID in 2008, and you talked about high interest rates. But my next note was here that I learned that Memphis can weather a storm. Memphis can weather a storm.
Oh, you have quote, Memphis can weather a storm.
Yeah.
I'm going to add 2 letters to that.
Okay.
And this is bold. Memphis can weather any storm.
Yeah.
So any storm so far that I've seen in my 20+ year career, Memphis has come through smiling, flying colors.
You can't say it any better. I mean, yes, the N and the Y here make that even better. But I think Memphis can weather any storm. And I was licensed in 2001. I've been an agent for 23 years. Okay. That's amazing. Yeah. 2008 was the toughest thing ever. I was almost out of it. I thought the whole world was going to end. We thought everything was going to be over with,
right? You
were
selling new construction homes.
Oh my gosh, man. It was the worst thing on the planet, man. Yeah. It went from 100 people coming through the model a week to 5 in about a month time frame. It was amazing how the light switch went, but it did. We weathered that.
But that was probably the beginning of the best years of my life. Because of where I was positioned as an investor to purchase property and had already been in the game, so it's just a different perspective.
If that happened today, I would celebrate that because of so many people that would suffer, but I would be in a prime position to take 110% advantage of that.
The opportunity.
Oh, I would rake up so many houses and my head would spin.
And we've talked about this for years now, since COVID, like that. There's too much institutional money. There's too much professional services that is going to stop that from happening. So we're not going to see it in our lifetime. Hey, great if we do, but there's no way. It's just not going to happen. We saw it with apartment complexes in the 80s, and the institutional money came into the apartment complexes in the 80s, and that was 40 plus years ago. And it hadn't happened again in apartments. Happened in single family homes because institutional investors weren't there. And so anyway,
I wonder, and it might be the next show topic, I wonder if there's going to be some limitations put on some of these guys at some point. You manage over $500 billion.
There's a question.
I've heard that question. If you manage over $500 billion, will you be allowed to buy them?
Yeah.
So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to break them down into 250 billion things and buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're just not going to buy them anymore?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I learned that we can weather any storm. To no surprise, the hot areas 3128, 127, 118, 141, 38125,
122,
122, Cordova's bar,
117,
all remained hot.
111.
Those areas remained hot. So I'm nothing really surprised me.
That's a great. You're right.
You're right. I didn't look at those numbers, and I went back and listened to the entire thing. Because I want to listen from the investor's perspective to hear what's the rhythm of these numbers. And it was overall, we were upbeat. We had a few, in our tone, we had a few dips in some of the areas, but for the most part, we told you that if you could find a deal in most of these areas, to go buy it, right? Because we're seeing improvements, valuations go up. All those green numbers mean that from last year at this time, we've improved. So you can't, from an investor standpoint, when you come to Memphis, you want cash flow. That's your first thing that you talk about. But if I can throw a little cherry on top of that and have you some appreciation and some forced equity created in there, then you've got to be able to acknowledge it. We hadn't been able to acknowledge appreciation much. The last 4 years, yes. 25 years, it's been, hey, your property's gonna be worth about the same, but you're gonna cash flow like crazy. Now we're doubling it. Now we're getting the appreciation, and now we're getting the cash flow, and those numbers showed it. So I was pleased with the podcast.
Great. Yeah. And we can talk more next week, maybe even about what you just said about inflation and weathering any storm. Just another storm would be inflation. And what did we see? We've always heard it's an inflation hedge, and what happened?
Yeah.
Those things, properties went up when inflation went up.
100%.
100%. Yeah. And you saw all of a sudden we were seeing appreciation.
Yep.
And so again, weathering any storm in the Memphis real estate, when the recession it came and the interest rates went up, the property values went up, and people started.
Teflon.
It was good.
Hey, thanks for the time. This is good.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys listening today. Thanks for listening to the Zip Code Breakdown. If you want to go back to it, YouTube, Spotify, our Facebook page, wherever you want to go find the Zip Code Breakdown. We're going to break them down into each individual zip code. So there's an hour and 20 or 30 minute long episode of everything. We're going to break these down into each individual zip code. You can email, I'll send those to you. But when we send houses out to our buyers, we include that information all with that. So if you want more information on how to become a buyer with our team, dean@CrestCore.com, and then you can go check out all the podcast info with the zip codes on all of our channels. Anything else?
Sweet.
Guys, thanks. We'll see you next time.